videos of me smoking, because it's the one thing I'm ashamed of. This hat I put in my travel bag March, actually. I started to prepare to come down here because I was going to donate it to somebody else. It's just a little bit tight for me. I've kept it in the back. I have a few things to donate to that person, but they only want to spit at me. Anyway, why have I turned the camera on while I got a fag? Because unplanned, and that's the important thing. Just sat here. I wasn't even planning. In fact, I was planning to go off and do my washing first thing this morning. Where is it? Oh, it's the washing is. Oh yeah, there it is. The coppers came. No, they didn't come by. They went along the top road, so I put everything in, just in case they come. Oh, I want a hat on, because I have a little bit. I deserve to be thought handsome. Anybody having the phone call that well, it wasn't a phone call, it was 10 seconds of phone yesterday. Fuck it all. Forget that. I've been living with that for. Wow. She was damaged 20 years ago. Not by me. 21 years ago. My daughter was stolen from me for 10, a couple of weeks, 21 years ago. Irrelevant. All that matters, and why have I got a fag? Because I can give up smoking. I've just, unplanned, I was going to go to the big car park 2 miles up, which is next to a fast flowing small river. Do a bit of washing, then go for a walk. I'm going for a walk now. But I've just done 2.5 hours talking into this thing, totally unplanned, no notes, just sat there. Haven't even had my bloody lunch yet. No notes, and I rattled out pretty much everything that really, to me, the really interesting things that have gone wrong in society over the last decade. They've all been there. I've all been like, sometimes I was planning to do it, but I wasn't planning anything today. I've just rattled them out into my broadcast channel. Well, it's not up yet. I'm completely content. Got them out good. No forethought. They're in there. My mind's working just fine. That's all I care about. Despite the one bizarre thing, I met a woman yesterday morning. She was parked next to me. I was in the big car park up there. I'd have been chucking it down with rain. And Denise, I don't normally name people. And we had half an hour conversation. She really wanted to tell me about legal, terrible things that had happened to her. Middle class, well-to-do. Well, she had her hunter boots. And she was going to phone me, because I showed her some of my legal, successful operation against the government. She was adamant. And I really enjoyed, and I don't do causes anymore, but it's like, okay, I'll guide you a bit in this. She told me she wanted to sue the government, and then told me her stories, and like, she should. I don't normally say that, but it's like, yeah, you should symbolically. You're in a good space, your energy's good, you've still got some injury, and this is categorically needs to be symbolically shown to the rest of the world. Do it, love. Okay, I will augment you, bolster you. She asked me for my phone number. I said, yeah, it's like, hey, you can help me. Like, yeah, categorically. Just phone me. I mean, it's just like, and there are very few people I meet, and like, oh, that's a totally equal, great meeting. Yeah, I'd enjoy having a cup of tea with her and guiding her into the first stage of like, okay, we've got to lay out your evidence, your stories about how you were 5 years ago, what happened. It's not terribly important, but how you are now. You've got to tell the stories, because she told me some of them. It's like, I can deal with you. I told her, I can deal with you. I used to get people phoning me up about similar sort of things, but they couldn't tell their stories. But this woman could. She was absolutely, I'm going to phone you. Like, she came and spoke with me after I didn't broach the conversation connected with her dog. You give up. No, she's actually the best meeting of about 50 people I've engaged with deeply in nearly 2 months. You don't know where you are with anybody. I wrote my phone number down and my website and my name. And I showed her some newspapers and she understood. And she'd even said that, and it wasn't connected with children, her cause, but she said, oh yeah, I've been around childcare organisations and I know they're fascist. I mean, this is a middle-class, intelligent, well-spoken woman. She's like, I know they're total fascists. Okay? So it's like we've got a bond. It's not that Anyway, she's got real... Her body's been very much damaged, and I believe her. I don't want to know anybody who talks about their body. But yeah, okay, I believe you. You've told me she'd been ended up hospitalised after some mistreatment. Callous, ignorant, nasty. It's like, right, you should take this, and I never normally say this to people, you should take this forward, this to set an example. She received extreme, ignorant treatment over a period of time. I'm not going to give any clues, it doesn't matter. She doesn't phone me. It's like, you don't know where you are with anybody. That's why to be a hermit. Or run off and marry a Bolivian. Right, there we go. Eat, get on with my day. But in my machine now is enough stuff, most of the stuff, not all of the stuff, that, including some very saucy stories. For years it's like, yeah, one day maybe I might put this out. I got to repeat, ideally everything I would write. But it's quicker just to rattle them out at this stage. But it's more than that. I don't want my daughter to think her dad has ever lost his mind. I'm constant. That's all the only reason I turn the camera on. I'm constant. And I have been for 30 years. Constant. Ever since an event happened. Katrina. That is in the podcast. And it's the kind of story that your Megan Downs, Douglas Murray's ridiculous Jordan Peterson, who makes a hysteria out of his inability to restrict his appetite for barbiturates 3 or 4 years ago, which is the most terrible example to any young person ever, and he should have put his tail between his legs and said, do you know what, I should have known, Jordan, should have known you don't routinely use barbiturates. And then he comes up with all sorts of complicated names for the syndromes that then this addiction to something he should have known better because he's fucking medically trained. What kind of an example is that? We knew 40 years ago you don't gobble mum's Valium. You might have a couple, okay, but if you take 3 or 4 you might get hooked and then have terrible problems. Jordan fucking B. Peterson then turns his failed, pathetic addiction. It's like, I didn't know. Excuse me, we know. I had the shittiest education in the world. We knew, aged 17, you don't gobble psychotropic medicines. You might get addicted to them, and then all sorts of bad things can happen. No. Jordan B. Peterson turns it into this kind of, poor me, it's somebody else's fault. That is the worst example ever to set to younger people. Ever. And my best friend Susie, I told her this and she got ranty because she's one of his fans. But anyway, no, she's not my best friend. That's the schism between me and Susie, but she's the only one I can at least have some conversation with. Anyway, yeah, she virtually threw me out of her new Bijou cottage when I said that Jordan B. Peterson is the biggest fucking... And he should have said, I have made such an error, I'm going to set an example, I'm going to retire myself from the public platform for 5 years. I'm going to take myself off to the naughty step, processed what I really failed to be, mature, wise, thoughtful, and tell the world, that's my fault, learn from my terrible error. No, blames it on somebody else and turns it into this self-pitying, like, year-long psychodrama on YouTube, where he even ropes his daughter in to sort of take over the psychodrama. Jordan Peterson is not a wanker, is this amazing person who's the victim of something else. That's the worst example to set to anybody, so we don't even think about him. Blah blah blah. Oh, turn off my digitals, I've had enough. I really need to get back to reading some books and my actual notes, which have not been referred to at all, but spieling out what I've spieled out, I now don't have to think. I'm going to give up smoking, which is the only bad thing I do, and I don't use any chemicals, whatever, but just focus my mind, I have to say. I don't mind if my mind's unfocused for 6 months, because I've spieled out a load of good stuff. I know it's good. I don't give a fuck if anybody else thinks it's good.